All right, I went there because I was scared, all right? I knew you were gonna fight, and I didn't want to be complicit. Because I didn't think you could win. But I see now what you saw all along, that the saviors can't be reasoned with. That fighting them is the only way.
Hey guys, Kiwi here. In this video, I'll be breaking down and analyzing Season 8, Episode 3 of The Walking Dead as we compare it to its comic book counterpart. With that being said, warning of spoilers for everything in the show up to Episode 803, along with issues 118 and 119 of the comics, and let's jump right into this. Alright, so first off, I wanted to discuss Eric's fate in the most recent episode, as he was given a way bigger send-off on the show than in the comics. The show had him get shot in episode 802, leaving it a cliffhanger until 803, and they spread it out through the entire episode as well. They had Aaron leave Eric near the beginning of the episode so we would continue to hold hope just like Aaron, but then realize afterwards that it was all for naught. And although Aaron wasn't truly saying goodbye, he still got way more closure with Eric than his comic book counterpart. As you may or may not be aware, in the comics he was actually shot in the head instantly. It was a huge double-page reveal focusing on the fact that there would be casualties on both sides. Aaron first takes a moment once Eric dies to grab his rifle and continue with the battle, and then after the battle is over, he's also shown sitting alongside Eric's body in the back of a truck, I believe. Rick comes over to ask Aaron if he's okay, and Aaron responds crying but determined that he wants to kill every last savior. In the comics, Aaron got to keep Eric's body for a funeral since he was shot in the head, but in the show, Eric got turned into a zombie and wandered off into a horde before Aaron could safely take him out. So although Eric was given a bigger send-off to Aaron in the show, he'll always have that uncomfortable feeling as the thought of Eric wandering forever as a zombie sits in the back of his head. Moving on, let's jump to Gregory's return at the Hilltop. This is very similar to the comics, except once again, they've expanded upon it along with adapted it to the show. And man, I feel like I say this every time I see Gregory's actor on screen, but holy crap, does that guy really just capture Gregory's character? He is just so perfect, they could have not picked a better actor, and although I hate Gregory, I love how accurate they depict his character on the show. Now in the comics, Gregory never ended up stealing Gabriel's car, as he sort of just showed up out of nowhere alongside Cal and other Hilltop members. This is because unlike the show, in the comics Gregory actually managed to get 8 or so people to leave, causing them to leave with him. Gregory tries being dramatic here, saying that he walked the whole way home, but Cal adds that they actually drove the car most of the way and that it just broke down 5 miles off. Now on the show, he actually has a reason why he got there so fast. He stole Gabriel's vehicle, but of course he leaves that part out. And as a matter of fact, the whole idea involving how they created walls on the sides of all their vehicles, it's completely original to the show as well. So anyways, in both versions, they end up arguing, although the arguments are slightly different. In the comics, he tries returning to the Hilltop while acting like he had no idea about their attack and that the saviors just picked him up or something, but Maggie quickly calls him on his bullshit. So while Maggie was at the sanctuary in the show alongside Rick and Ezekiel, she wasn't in the comics, so this was the first that she heard of what happened. Gregory goes on a ramble trying to throw out excuses saying that he was trying to help his people, but Maggie just yells at him asking him what the fuck is wrong with him. Now in the show, Gregory ended up bending over backwards admitting that he was wrong, saying that the saviors can't be reasoned with, along with finally agreeing with Maggie's perspective. In the comics, however, he does the complete opposite. Not only does he not apologize, but he still tries acting above her, and then he tries calling the saviors reasonable to her. She responds by punching him in the face like she did in the show last season, and it seems like Gregory is always getting a punch in the face.
We play nice, they play nice. Say, dear, saviors can actually be quite reasonable.
Even way back in issue number 101, right after Glenn's death, when everyone goes to the Hilltop afterwards, Rick actually ended up punching Gregory in the face as well. This never happened in the show, but it would have been during season 7. So in the comics, both Rick and Maggie throw a punch at Gregory, but it seems as though Gregory's pathetic apology was enough for Maggie to restrain herself this time. And finally, in the comics, this is around the time that the whole Holly, Sasha, Rapey Davy scene would have happened, but if you remember, that was remixed into the season 7 finale for the show. So although these two moments are the only moments from the comics, being Gregory and Eric, don't think that they aren't staying true to them still. They're just expanding the story as well. The show is using almost every scene and situation from the comics still, it's just that all of this was glossed over a lot quicker on paper than they're doing it in the show. Not only that, but the show has way more characters than the comics did at this point, which is both a blessing and a curse. Not only are there characters original to the show, there are also characters that are alive in the show that died in the comics a long time ago, and vice versa. Daryl, Morgan, Tara, and Carol weren't in the comics either at this point or at all, so the showrunners had to figure out what to do with these characters for season 8. So instead of just having them all become nameless soldiers with guns in the war, kind of like the Alexandrians, no offense to them, but they actually started showing us how this deeply affects each and every one of our characters differently. They're expanding the moral and ethical dilemma against mass murder against the saviors. In the comics, they just confidently gunned everyone down, but in the show, they've created quite a huge inner conflict. We all know that murder is bad, and that Rick's group generally tries to resort to every other option beforehand, but when it comes down to it, some people do need to put down because they're just simply too much of a threat. Not only do they not have valid jail cells to host all the hypothetical prisoners of war safely, but how would they provide food? Is it really worth having your family live alongside that big of a threat just so they could break out and rebel at any moment? We have a three-way conflict between Jesus, Morgan, and Tara, along with an implied conflict between Daryl and Rick. While Jesus ends up convincing Maggie to let the prisoners stay at the Hilltop, Maggie still needs to discuss this and finalize it once and for all with Rick, which might be a bit difficult considering Rick might go MIA for the next few episodes, and Daryl will probably just want to kill all of those saviors. Now, why would Rick go MIA? Well, at the end of last episode, Rick implied to Daryl that he was making a stop somewhere else alone next episode, so is this him maybe going to try and convince Jadis to side with him? Now that Daryl and Rick have implied that Rick is going to make this stop, it makes perfect sense that he's getting all of these Polaroids taken of the destroyed Savior outpost and the home base in order to convince Jadis that they're winning the war, proving to Jadis that she should ultimately side with them. You'd think that he'd learn his lessons after the first few times that working with Jadis has proved to be complicated, but hey, third time's a charm, right? Wrong. Actually, we've been speculating ever since the Season 8 trailer this summer that Jadis actually ends up capturing Rick and putting him in a shipping crate at her junkyard, so will this occur next episode? Anyways, before this just morphs into a full-out prediction discussion, I'll go ahead and leave it here, but what do you guys think about the way that they're expanding All Out War? I personally love how they're flushing it all out with valid content, not just rushing through the war in the first half of the season. Also, as a quick reminder, Jadis and the Junkyard group are not in the comics at all, so that's completely original to the show as well. But anyways guys, I'd appreciate a like on the video if you've enjoyed anything I've said today, or even subscribe for more Walking Dead content in the near future. If you'd like to take that extra step in helping support my videos, check out my Patreon where there's a bunch of different rewards involving the channel, such as a chance to directly influence the videos being produced. It isn't necessary, but some of these videos do take a while, so it could really help in the long run. But as always, I thank you all so much for watching, and until next time, I'll talk to you guys later. Peace out.